I will tell you the way that you can scale on Amazon.
Yeah.
You own the brand. It's your choice of if you want to do this or not. But I'll tell you, I'm telling you from brands that are doing $7 million a month, how they launch products and how they scale. And truthfully, it is. You've got to have the path of least resistance. If you have no reviews, you're launching a new product, and you're twice as expensive as everyone else, why would somebody buy?
Welcome to Synapse Sessions, the show where we dive deep with experts who are changing the game in e-commerce. Today's episode is going to be incredibly valuable for anyone selling products online, but especially on Amazon. I sat down with Nick Hall, a true Amazon growth specialist who built and sold his own 7-figure supplement brand after achieving a remarkable 450% growth in just 3 months. Now, as CEO of Revive Marketing Partners, he helps other better-for-you CPG brands achieve similar explosive results. In this conversation, we'll uncover the Amazon PPC strategies that actually work, how to set up your account for maximum growth, and the tools that can give you a competitive edge in today's marketplace. Whether you're just starting out or are looking to scale your existing Amazon presence, you won't want to miss the actionable insights Nick is about to share. Let's jump into the session. Yeah, obviously people are going to want to know how to replicate this success that you've had. So yeah, I guess just to start, give us a quick walkthrough of your journey. And I know there's probably a lot to it, but how did you achieve this level of success?
Yeah, well, it sure didn't feel successful throughout. The early days of Vita 5 was, the first 6 months we couldn't figure out anything. Could not figure out. I'll put it like this. We were making $3,000 a month, and everything was a subscription back then. And then we go in and look into the data, and we find out of the 100 subscribers we had, 96 of them were family. Fortunately, my business partner has a pretty big family, so that's what jump-started us with that. And then later we did obviously figure out the direct-to-consumer. This is back 2016, 17, 18, and 19. We were scaling that pretty substantially. And there's 1,000 moving parts, right? If you ever think there's one thing that's going to change your business, it's not. It's going to be multiple things in the right direction. But yeah, it was fun, and thanks for the nice intro there. We've been very fortunate with some of the success, lots of learning throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously ran my own CPG brand for 7 years, was fortunate to get an exit on the back end. And then, now it's been fun because what I find is there's so many agencies out there that are just not good. And I think anyone that's worked with an agency has not had a good experience.
Yeah.
Or at least had an experience at. So, I got into this because, after taking a little bit of time off, I was like, this is my favorite part of it. I don't love the supply chain side of it. I don't love the finance and cash flow and all the other stuff of CPG, but I do love CPG in general. But I like the marketing and sales of it. And so it's been really fun. And what's cool is over time, we've gotten to just learn so much that now if you've got a brand, one of my favorite things is I can kind of guide people on what product do they launch, because when you look at a portfolio of products, there's some that are good for Amazon, some that are not. Some that are good for D2C, some that are not. Some that are good for retail, some that are not. And it's just hard to know if you don't know.
Right.
So,
yeah, you could have a whole catalog that you're maybe currently selling on D2C, but you look at that and there's going to be some that are good for Amazon and some not, and it's that 80-20 rule. You want to find out what is that 20% that is going to be effective on Amazon, based on the competition. It's a different animal. So yeah, I'm fully with you there. It's product choice is one of the most important things, because if you go into a retail store, I'll just say, because I was in the gummy vitamin space for a while, apple cider vinegar was a massive crusher for a number of years in retail, and there was almost no one with product out there. However, on Amazon, it became commoditized so quick that it was a great retail play, but it became an awful Amazon play, because yes, there's tons of volume, but there's so many sellers. Cost per clicks are ridiculously expensive. Everyone's dropping their price to make it a commodity. And honestly, all the products out there are pretty decent. You got a 4.6 star review on average. That's not your ideal to fight against. So yeah, you can't really mess that product up. So,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
hard to. But let's see. But yeah, you also mentioned as far as agency goes and working with different agencies. Did you find anything particular that those agencies were doing wrong? Because there might be some people out there getting started that maybe they're looking at agencies, maybe how could they choose one, or maybe they just shouldn't at all and try to do it on their own?
I think, yeah, it's a good question. Like, this is what I would say. If you don't have money, don't go just hire someone from the Philippines or Pakistan or whatever. Like, I have just seen time and time again, you're just going to burn money. People are like, oh, it's only 500, 1,000, $1,500 a month, whatever, like, the cheap cost is. Do not do that. Yeah, I've audited so many accounts, and they just blow your money. So if you're spending, let's just say, for example, $5,000 a month on ads, and you're spending $1,000 with this individual out there or whatever, I will see like $4,500 of that spend is total waste. And I'm like, you're not spending $1,000. You're spending $4,500 plus the $1,000 of like total waste, whatever. So that's for like smaller brands or whatever. If you're like super small, have no money, and you're just like trying to figure out something, I personally would just go try to learn it. Don't go spend $10,000 on courses. Like, go watch some YouTube videos and, whatever. Like, I mean, there's a ton of content out there. The hard part is understanding, like, what's real and actually, like, meaningful versus those that aren't. For other ones, like, once you're able to afford an agency, once you can spend $2,500, $3,500, $4,500, $5,000, $10,000 a month on an agency, then it's really picking the right one. And it's really difficult, honestly, because I worked with 7 different agencies, and honestly, I did not have I had good relationships with some, but the results were just always subpar. And honestly, half of it's because the softwares out there really are like just very generic. If X number of clicks drop cost per click by this much, right? Like, just super, super basic. And they're not doing anything to like actually rank you up higher. So that's definitely a big thing there. But having a good understanding of Amazon is always super, super important. And I'll just say this. I looked at hiring someone recently, and they work for a pretty big Amazon agency, and one that most people probably know. They had orientation on Monday. Training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, was on 5 accounts on Friday. That if you could learn all of Amazon in 25 hours, then I just tell everyone, hey, just take a course, because I just wouldn't feel right selling them something like that, right? I mean, my training is 540 hours. It is 3 months straight. And I'm like, that is super, super important. And so what happens is you get some of these agencies have good account managers, brand managers, whatever you want to call them. But a lot of them have, I mean, and not to the individual's fault, but like, sorry, you can't learn much in 25 hours. So, anyways, that's kind of my take on a lot of that.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to, maybe find guys that already have a lot of experience, be an account manager, and then, screen them and make sure they are qualified. And then maybe, if they are pretty experienced, then you could just steer them in the direction that how you want things managed, and that could cut the learning curve somewhat. But and
you make a really good point there. Like, if I was in a brand's shoes again, what I would do is I would try to get with someone like the brand manager, account manager, whatever they call them within the organization. I would just try to learn as much as I can on all this stuff and be able to like, okay, so why do you do stuff like this? Like, how do you think through this? Why this? Why that? Like, because the whole thing is you should be able to learn. You need to learn enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. If you are starting out, it's just really important while you're learning, don't go too aggressive, obviously, with PPC, and don't set up a bunch of campaigns. Start out with a simple campaign structure, and again, it's also just starting out with the right products to begin with. And I'm sure you could probably guide someone on that to like what products they should look to start with in the beginning in the first place.
Yeah, like this. If I'm seeing the brand's position again, this is what I always tell people. People go the wrong way, and there's the problem with a lot of agencies is they've never run a brand. They don't understand the cash flow of things, and so they tell people, "Oh, go launch 10 products." And I'm like, that's ridiculously expensive. You're going to run the company out of money without knowing you're running out of money because you've never done it. This is how I look at it. You got to first figure out the product. Quit going into keywords. Like, people go too deep, too far without figuring out the strategy first. Figure out the product that you want to launch. once you figure out the product, and this may be 2 or 3 products, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm speaking generically. So bigger brands, yes, it may be 10 or 15, but like smaller brands, average, mid-sized brands, pick a couple of products that you want to really, really go deep in. Then once you do the keyword research is really, really, really important. Okay. And there's a number of factors that people are still talking about that, in my opinion, are outdated. Everyone talks about like, what's the search volume on a keyword? And I'm like, search volume on a keyword is not what I would look at. I would look at, like with Helium 10, they used keyword sales. That's super important. Because to you and me, or to anyone out there, you may think like gifts for mom is great for Mother's Day, right? But like, go look at that and see like what pops up. Everything's going to pop up. You're going to have like roses pop up and a weird gift here and like, some probably electrolyte or something. You know what I mean? Like everything is going to pop up in like totally different kind. People are not converting on that. People are literally just window shopping at that. And so do you actually want to go after that, especially in the early days? And so another factor that a lot of people don't look at is when you're launching this stuff, there are some categories that are ridiculously expensive. I mean, we all know beauty and supplements is super expensive. Now they're super high margin as well, but if you look at some of those, you need to be really, really specific on the keywords that you go. The way that I explain it is, if you're looking at a dartboard, you have to hit the red bullseye first. Once you hit the red bullseye, then gradually go out, and then gradually go out. And the strategy I'm talking about is really for like brands that are wanting good, profitable growth.
Okay.
The old school way was like, go look at the long tail keywords. Well, everyone knows the long tail keywords now. There's so many tools out there that's not a trick anymore. And when you have someone with 300 search volume a month, you just start blowing money on a bunch of keywords that, like, who cares if you stick on one with 300 search volume in the early days? Mm-hmm. You need to start gradually building it up, right? Because those big guys are hitting the long tail keywords and the ones that you actually want to go after. And so for me, what I more look at is like, what's the, suggested cost per click on these? And is it worth going after within them?
Okay. So I guess, how would you, because all those tools exist. Everybody knows all the keywords, long tail, short tail, whatever. It's really about going after the ones that are most relevant to your product, have high volume. So it's like, for someone who's just getting started though, maybe their listing doesn't have the reviews and et cetera. Like, how can they compete, or should they need to just budget in, okay, it's going to be expensive at first. Maybe you need to discount, do promotions, things like that. Is that what
you're nailing it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and you know the way of this, right? Like, I try to explain this a little bit different to people because I've literally had people, and this is totally fine by me, but I've talked with brands before, and I'm like, I will tell you the way that you can scale on Amazon. You own the brand. It's your choice of if you want to do this or not. But I'll tell you, I'm telling you from brands that are doing $7 million a month, how they launch products and how they scale. And truthfully, it is. You've got to have the path of least resistance. If you have no reviews, you're launching a new product, and you're twice as expensive as everyone else, why would somebody buy? Just think about it from a consumer. Okay, I'm trying to buy this bottle of water, and let's just not put BrewMate's name on it. Let's say it's Nick's Mate, whatever. And I try to launch this. Everyone's at $40. If I try to launch this at $50, I have no reviews, no real advantage. People are just not going to buy it. Because, I mean, and will some? Yes, of course, some will. But you've got to be super clear on, one, your value prop right away. And then two, like, you got to drop your price early on. And then gradually increase it. You're increasing it, though, not at 30 days or 90 days or a certain number of days. You're increasing it based on bestseller rank. And as your bestseller rank gets better and better, that's when you just start adjusting the price up a little bit more. Okay. My big thing, like, long story short with all of this, is you've got to have the path of least resistance. And so, for other brands, like, people always knock on these brands that sell in Walmart or are kind of like your value, whatever. And I'm like, no, Walmart, look how many customers shop at Walmart all the time. It's like, good times, bad times, people are shopping at Walmart. Majority of people are buying Lay's potato chips. That's just the reality. Yes, healthy, better for you, has some great value, but like, even though people feel like, booty after eating some Lay's chips, they still buy them because they're affordable, they taste really good, and who cares about, like, I shouldn't say it like that, not who cares about the ingredients, but like, most people don't actually care. So, that's my take.
Hey, really quick, enjoying these insights? Don't miss out on future episodes with more expert advice on how to grow your brand. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with Synapse sessions. We release new content every week to help your business succeed. Now back to the session. Like, one of the things like with price, because like when we ran our agency, we would deal with clients that, they would start advertising their products with us, and they wouldn't want to budge on their price, and would be like, well, we're trying to go after these important keywords for you, but they're not converting. Like, we're showing you, like, here's your conversion rate, here's your competition. We need to test lowering your prices. Price is going to be one of the biggest drivers, especially when you're
100%.
newer. That's going to be the biggest
100%.
driver of click-through rate and all that. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're dead on. And it's the way that brands should look at it. And this is coming from someone that ran a brand, and now looking back, I'm like, I was stuck in my ways. Like, I totally get where brands are coming from when they say this stuff, but like, exactly as you said, I always tell people, I'm like, when you look at the A9 algorithm, there's really two factors that go into it. It's like simplified. Two factors: conversion rate and velocity. Okay, so how do you get better conversion rate? Well, the number one factor, just like you said, is price. Well, I should say, number one factor is relevancy, and then price, and then reviews, and all of that, right?
Okay.
So, because like, I just put it like this: if this has a 3-star review, but it's $2, someone will buy it still. I buy it.
Sure.
Like, it's $2. Everything else is $40. Heck yeah, why not? So like, that's where for me, I'm like, you got to understand, like, now that's an extreme example, but and the reality too is early days. Like, if you look at some of these brands that are like massive, launching products all the time on Amazon, crushing, they launch at a really low price point, and like, I literally think they lose money on everyone that they sell early on. But just do it at a point of break even, everyone. You should start to get some traction, because you start to get that velocity because of the conversion rate, and you start to get more, and then start doing some of your sponsored, right? You can always do sponsored early on. Your ACOS is going to be high naturally because your price is low, right? And so that's okay. Or if you're okay with that, it's okay. But you're going to spend somewhere. So if you're not going to spend on cutting your price down, you got to spend more on the PPC. And your conversion's still going to suffer, which means you're not going to get the organic rank. So I'm fully in line with you. Again, a lot of brands are like, nope, I will not lower price, I will not whatever. And I'm like, you can still be successful, but this, like,
it's going to take longer. You're going to spend the money one way or another. So yeah,
Yep.
you can not lower your price, and it's going to take longer to get that velocity, to get the sales, to then get the reviews that you need. So it's like, how long do you want to draw this out? Yeah,
100%.
And that's where, as an agency, it's like, we're like, this is like really tough, and it's making, we're trying to do this for you, and you're paying our fee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I always, like, I've always lived by a way of, like, I shouldn't say I've always, because I used to always want to be like the nice guy. And so I'd just be like, hey, like, this is kind of like what you should do, and like, whatever. Now I'm like just very direct with people. I'm like, hey, if you want to win, I've seen it with dozens and dozens of brands. Like, it's not an opinion, it's a straight fact. If you want to scale, this is how you're going to see it. However, you own the brand. If you do not want to do that, that's totally fair. But understand, like, this is your best practice and your best way.
Right.
So
yeah, I guess beyond that, like, so once they've gotten off on the right track, at least to start with, they've got the right product, they've got their keywords. So how do you go about monitoring keyword performance and analyzing that progress over time, and frequency of optimization, things like that? How do you go about that?
Yeah.
To dig into it a little further.
Yeah, so first thing, so you've got your product, you launch it, it's live. You're going to start going after certain keywords. One of the first things that I always like doing is putting the major keyword, let's just say collagen gummies, for example. But collagen gummies big on the front part of the package, right? Test a couple things. So I always like to use this as an example, you may have a product that has a white lid like this, but you put on Amazon the major win, right? Low sugar. And like apple cider vinegar, and then you put gummies in the bottom. You want the consumer to see the image and immediately know what it is. Low sugar apple cider vinegar gummies. Like that's exactly how it reads. Number one factor of whatever it is. And this is a real lid, but like if you were to put low sugar on this because you're just getting started and you want cheaper costed goods and whatever it may be, that's okay. And like if a consumer gets something a little bit different, it's still fine. Don't send them something like don't send them this when they're thinking they're getting this, right? Like different colors totally and all that stuff. So that's the first thing. Next thing you're wanting, like obviously keyword research we've talked about a lot is super, super, super important. You've got to get that right. I mean, if you get that right, like your account could be pretty much off for, it just can be awful. After that, you got to make sure that you target the right way, which we talked about, which is hit the bullseye first and make sure that you've got that. The biggest thing that I see as a complaint is most companies that I look at, because let's be real, most agencies out there have started from watching some YouTube videos and being like, oh, I can do this and charge people money. And it's like, that's just not how this works. And so I see the biggest issue is accounts are not set up for scale. And so they'll go out there and they'll have 300 keywords in one campaign or 10 keywords that should not be together in a campaign, meaning some have super high search volume or high keyword sales and other ones don't. And so you can't adjust it because when you're adjusting budget, you have two different ways of really optimizing, right? It's like your budget from your campaign level and your bid from your keyword or target level. And you can adjust those things. Obviously, there's a number of things. I'm just saying generically, you can do top of search placement, all these other things. But if you've got those set up the wrong way, you'll never be able to scale it. And so I always talk about like single keyword campaigns. Now you've got to know how to manage it. And it's a really, really important thing of like, how do you manage it? Which ones do you use as single keyword campaigns? The generic is, just higher search volume keywords you should use as that, that's fine if you're just getting started, but you want to go a little bit deeper than that. And then the last thing is, like you were saying, the tracking of this stuff. And there's a number of tools at this point, but really what I've found with a lot of tools is if you go use one of these big PackView or Sky or a lot of these other ones, it's just really, I've thought about like, just create a simple software that just does your basic rules. If it hits X clicks, decrease bid by X, right? Like, I mean, it's just so simple. To me, it's great, but it's very generic. It just fills the holes. If there's big holes in the boat, it fills the big holes, but there's always going to be a lot of leaky small holes. You got to get something deeper than that. I don't think that every keyword should be treated the same, or those typically treat them the same. So that's kind of how that's all set. What I do is I've got some proprietary and non-proprietary softwares that I use, but there's some that you can use that are like track your keyword progress, organic and sponsored along the way with each of the keywords. And that's really important because if you're not above the competition with the conversion rate, you will not be able to win at the top for good, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I guess to back, I'm trying to think of there's a tool that actually optimizes PPC that's specifically set up to do one keyword campaigns. A Quartile. You heard of that one?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's like a method and a optimization.
And I've heard
tool.
horror stories and like amazing stories from them. So,
yeah.
What I do like that they do all that stuff. I've heard Quartile works well for like big brands, like tons of data. Where I've heard it is not ideal is like smaller brands. And what I will say with Quartile is it's going to cause some issues if you don't have any clue. Because you pretty much say like, hey, I just need my ACOS down. But like there's so much in there that like you're kind of just going blindfolded and hopefully trusting in them, Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, now I've heard great things from a number of people. And I'm like, hey, if it works really well for you, do it. Like if you can set and forget and just walk away and it's like, does magic for you, why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just get a little bit like, I've seen some of these softwares really ruin accounts, and then like it just messes up the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it to where it's like I've tested various softwares and for PPC automation, and it seems like at the end of the day, no matter what, I still or account manager still needs to be in there monitoring things and making adjustments, and it ends up being that we just end up basically doing it without the software at the end of the day a lot of times. So yeah. It's a tough call on that. There's a lot of softwares that they're good at reducing your ACOS.
Sure.
But then you can kind of like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe you end up eliminating or not seeing opportunities for scale to scale up on in that case.
It's true. Like I've got something for my team, and it's the hardest metrics to hit within Amazon is dropping ACOS, or keeping the same depending on the maturity of the company, dropping tacos, increasing sales, and making sure someone's happy. That is like the hardest thing. And I've got a requirement of like a very, very, very high percentage number of our brands have to be in that in order for them to be saying that they're doing well. And I'm like, because I can drop your ACOS tomorrow. And what a lot of these agencies will do is they'll just start spending on branded. And it's like, well, that's super simple. But like, is that really any value to you? And to me, I'm like, it's semi-deceiving. Like, oh yeah, I can drop a company's. I mean, literally, like, we have to a T said by next Monday we'll have your ACOS down to 21%, and like to a T we had it at 21%. I'm like, we can adjust. We're really, really good at that. However, it's hard to do that while growing the sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be. I mean, basically, you're just cannibalizing the organic sales that you would have gotten anyway by running branded campaigns or even running campaigns or keyword targets on stuff you're already ranking really well for. Now there is a place for that, obviously, because sometimes you want to dominate that top of the page, for example, if the brand has the budget for that. So there is a case for that, but you got to be transparent about that, what you're doing. Split out those campaigns. We kind of hinted at software tools. I guess you said you had proprietary tools. Are there any software tools out there that you do recommend that are not proprietary that you're not?
Yeah, I would say
recommend
like one of my favorites right now is FBA Excel, guy Brett Burkaw. It's software/tool. It's not fully integrated with Amazon, but it is like, it's probably one of the most powerful things. I mean, he can launch features like that. He's done just the things that he's done is incredible. And you can track your keyword stuff. You can look at your search query performance. Like, he's launching these things months before Helium 10 or some of these like massive softwares. So I think that one's really good. Helium 10 is always a classic, right? Or Jungle Scout, whatever. Yeah. They're all plus or minus the same. I've always found Helium 10 I like. I think they all have a little bit of a different advantage. Data Dive is great. Brandon Young's got Data Dive, and that one, I think he's got some real value there, and he's continually making some updates. There's a few others that I think are good. Biggest thing I would just say is like, whoever gets into this, just make sure that you understand the tool fully, because the tool is only as good as what you can use it with.
Right.
So.
And first of all, what was the name of the tool you mentioned or software you mentioned? I'll make sure.
FBA Excel. Yep. FBA Excel.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's got a number of tools within there. It does take a bit of a learning curve, right? You got to understand how to do Google Sheets and a number of other. It's not super simple. So for those that are experienced, I think it's a really, really good tool. For those that are not experienced, you may want to use something more simple, like even Helium 10's ad tool, or I don't know, PackView, kind of just like a plug and play, learn it in 30 minutes. His is going to be for like the more advanced, super deep knowledge, all of that.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, that's another speaking of Excel, it's like just using bulk files and
Yep.
optimizing a couple times a week with that. You can also do that as well. But it does take a little bit of learning and
It
understanding
does.
to be able to do that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
How many times a week do you recommend people optimizing their campaigns, when they're
Yep.
starting out or when they're more advanced?
Generically, I would say a few times a week, 2 to 3 times a
Okay.
week. It all depends on size of the brand, number of keywords, how often the keywords are getting hit. Data is the biggest thing. So once they get that, that's where I would, dive deeper or whatever. But like people will be pretty successful. What I will say that you should not do is every single day, multiple times a day. This is not Facebook ads. Facebook ads, you can
Right.
literally be in it all the time, whatever. And I'm not saying you shouldn't always be in it, but you should always be looking at past data, last 30, 60, 90, 180 days of this, and then, making adjustments there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, Nick, it was great having you on. I mean, maybe we should do
Thank
a
you.
part two sometime. I know you have a wealth of knowledge to share that can help brands that are starting out or that are already scaled up. But I
Yeah.
guess for now, how can people reach out to you to maybe take advantage of your services and have you help them out?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm try to be fairly active on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
shoot me a message there. NIK, spelled a little bit different. Nick Hall. Happy to help anyone out there. I've got a heart for especially young entrepreneurs that are trying to grow, or people within a brand that are struggling to grow their brand, and just giving like honest, transparent feedback. Like I've told a number of brands, especially over the last few weeks, that have come to me. I'm like, hey, I really would not even look at launching this, and it sometimes hurts, but like it saves them money, and so I'm always happy to give some thoughts of what I know.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, I
Awesome.
really appreciate your time. I'm going to put your contact info down in the description below. And
I love it.
yeah, keep doing great things. And yeah, maybe we'll talk again soon in a part two episode.
Let's go. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Good chatting.
Thank you.